Hi guys, I am back with another video and I am sitting down in my library, so this is going to be a tag video. I have everything written down on here so that way I will not forget either the questions or my answers that I have. And this tag is the 25 bookish things about me. So I'm going to go with my 25 bookish facts about me list that I have written down here. And some of these you may have in common with me, and if you do, I would like to know them. If you comment in the comments box which ones I have that you have about you as well that are similar. And so I'm going to start from the top doing 25 and counting down all the way to 1. 25th fact about me is I do not like reading outside. As you can probably tell in this video, I have such pale skin, and I cannot read outside because if I'm out in the sun for even 5 or 10 minutes, I'll start getting red even with sunscreen on. And so it's a bear when I have to go outside and mow sometimes if it's awful hot. So if I do mow, I like to mow in the early morning if I'm off, or early afternoon, so it's not unbearable. 24. I hate when people borrow my books and don't return them. I think most of you are probably like that. I have given books out to people who have just returned them to me in horrible conditions. Like the binding has been all messed up, or they have did another pet peeve, which I will talk about later in the book, and I just hate that. And I think that you should respect the other person's property and return them as how you got them. So that is really one bookish fact about me that I think a lot of people will have. 23. I am a hardcover fan over a paperback, but I am a trade paperback person compared to a mass market paperback person. I know a lot of people like mass market paperbacks, and if I am out at a thrift store and I can only find mass market paperbacks for a good price, so I'll buy the mass market paperback for that price. But I do, if you could tell by my library, I do tend to collect, and I do like the hardcover books compared to the paperback books. But if people give me the paperback books for gifts, I will definitely read them, and I will definitely cherish them and keep them in my library. 22. Goes without saying as well, I like big books. I like to read a lot of big books. The most I have read is probably about 1,200 pages, and those are of course my science fiction fantasy novels that I really love to get into. And I just like the fact that you can get into a world that has that many pages and it's not boring, and you can relate to a lot of the characters that way. I do not like I do like a quick short story sometimes, and I think the summer is perfect for that. But for other times, I do like a longer book to get into the characters and develop the book, especially maybe if it's going to be a series, so that way we can develop relationships with the characters of the book. Number 21, I am a book cover buyer. I do like to look at the book covers if I have no intentions of buying a certain book when I'm at a bookstore or at a thrift store. And if I like the cover, depending on how good or bad the book is, I'll just snatch it up because I think it looks good in my library. And a lot of cases, I do really like the books that I have picked based on the book cover, but there are some instances where I do not absolutely care for the book, but it's still in my library because of the cover. Number 20, and I said this in my I like the hardcover fact, is I am more of a collector. I am a reader, don't get me wrong, but I am more of a book collector than anything else. And as you can tell in the library how full it is, I am a collector, and I tend to collect first editions a lot. And I will do probably a series of videos later on getting people interested in collecting that might not have any interest or just wanting to read books, but I will show you how to distinguish first editions and what to look for in collecting, and what I have found out through my collecting books and my 30 years of collecting books. Number 19, I hate when people dog-ear the book pages. That just irritates me. You know how many trees have died, so we can actually read those books, and you're going to damage those trees even further by dog-earing the book. And also, the collector in me does not like that because it makes the book less valuable, and that's why this separates me from other readers as a typical reader to a true collector. Number 18, I'll use just about anything for a bookmark. I will probably do a later video on all the bookmarks that I do have, and if you notice in the introduction of this video, on my top shelf in a black bag, those are where I keep all my bookmarks, and I do have quite a lot of them, and you'll see in there that I'll use just about anything for a bookmark. Number 17, I tried writing a book about Sleeping Beauty. Sleeping Beauty retelling, which is one of my favorite fairy tales ever. And I also have another idea for a book, but every time I go and write things, I just don't like how I write them, or I'll write them, but I really can't get it in the proper context of the time period that I want to, and I'll just chuck it all to pieces. But I do hate that. I do have ideas for books that I want to write, but I just can't seem to get myself to actually write the books or just continue on writing without changing anything, and I know that's hard for a lot of people. Number 16, people are going to hate me for this bookish fact that I just cannot get into Tolkien's works. I have read the Lord of the Rings trilogy and The Hobbit, and I just couldn't really get into his writing style. It wasn't me. I'm sorry. Don't hate me for it, but I know there's some people that's going to hate me. I bought the paperback editions at Barnes & Noble, and I sold the set for like $2 at a yard sale that we had. So if that tells you anything, I just could not really get into the story. Number 15, if it's a good, well-developed book and series, I am a series fan. Now, there are different books that are a series, and I don't think there should be a series, or ones that I have not finished because I didn't think the book was well developed enough to be a series. But if it is a good series, a good, well-written book, I rather read series than standalone novels. Number 14, I do read all genres of books. I don't class myself just as a horror fan or a science fiction fan or a fantasy novel fan, even though those are the books that I tend to read. I will read contemporary, I will read YA, I do like my classics books, and I do like historical fiction and books of biographies of different people. So I will read a lot of books, just not one genre of the books. Number 13, when doing this library with the move and account on Goodreads, I own over 600 books, and 90% of them I have read all of them, which is quite unusual for somebody to have owned that many books and have read 90% of the books. Number 12, my top read author, of course, is Agatha Christie. Agatha Christie beats Anne Rice because Agatha Christie has more books than Anne Rice, and everybody knows I do like Anne Rice a lot, and I read all of Anne Rice's books, but Agatha Christie just has a lot of books, whether it's the Hercule Poirot novels, which I like, or Miss Marple, or Tommy and Twopence, or even her plays, which I have read a few of her plays. But Agatha Christie by far is the most read author and the most owned author I have in my library. Number 11, when I read, I do like listening to music, and my favorite band is an old band, and it is Jim Morrison and the Doors, and I just love everything except for one song, and that is the Lizard King sort of attempt at a song that he was not finished with, and it's like a 17-minute long song. But other than that, I would listen to the Doors 24/7 if I could, and while I'm reading, I do tend to like to listen to the Doors a lot. Number 10, I average when reading about 50 pages within a half an hour if the story is, again, well developed and good and I like the story. Now, if the story is boring, I will probably read about half that to 30 pages in a half an hour, but I tend, on average, to read about 50 pages in a half an hour's time. Number 9, and again, this goes back to the genre thing. I am a science fiction and a horror fan. Those are my top favorite genres, but like I said and mentioned before, I will read more than just those genres of books. Number 8, I owe my love of reading and to this one author, and it's Anne Rice. And I think for those that have been on this channel for quite some time know that she is a great author of mine. And I got introduced to her in junior high school in reading class, and I was looking for another book to read, and I seen one of my friends reading Interview with the Vampire, and I remember watching the video and getting scared when Tom Cruise, we thought, was dead as a vampire Lestat, but comes back to play Moonlight Sonata. And that scene just fascinates me and scared me as a little kid. And when I read it again, or when I actually read the book, it was, you know, a different scenario, not as much older when I read the book and understood everything. But she got my love piqued and as far as reading constantly again. Of course, the Harry Potter series, I was reading that at the same time, but Anne Rice just opened my mind as far as books go, and I really owe her that, and I thank her for that. Number 7, and again, this is another one that those who have followed me for a long time will know, that my favorite book / books, because there are two, is Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll. My mother would read Alice's Adventures in Wonderland to me when I was little, and that book just stuck with me. I really liked the characters, and my mom groaned every time I asked her to read it because it's her least favorite book that she read to me when growing up. Number 6, if I could be one character in a book, it would have to be, of course, Hercule Poirot and Agatha Christie's novels. I just am a fan of Agatha Christie and her writing style, and and even in Miss Marple, I like how Agatha Christie takes these characters and develops them as far as Hercule Poirot goes. There's a book called Cards on the Table, and they are playing a game of bridge, and Hercule Poirot is able to, based on the player's hand at that time of the murder, is able to develop who killed that person. And I just think the little nuances that most people will not have when trying to solve a crime, Hercule Poirot just has those. And there is a great actor who has been in a lot of films, but he's most known for his portrayal of Hercule Poirot on the Netflix series that I had mentioned in a previous video with my haul. And his name is David Suchet. And every time I read a Hercule Poirot novel that I have not read, I just picture him as the character, and I just imagine his voice. I get his accent and everything in my mind as for Hercule Poirot. There is a Miss Marple I like too, and there's been a lot of Hercule Poirots and a lot of Miss Marples, but the Miss Marple I like is a short, old tawny woman. I do not know the name, but she just plays Miss Marple so well, and again picks up on the character nuances that no other detective would be able to pick up on when solving a case. So that is one of the characters that if I could be in a book, that's who I would be. Number 5, my favorite classic author is John Steinbeck, as a lot of people know. I do like Lewis Carroll, but my favorite author that I will go to all the time if I want to read something that I cannot get into mood to read anything else, I will pick up John Steinbeck and go to either The Acts of King Arthur and His Noble Knights, or One of my favorites, East of Eden or The Grapes of Wrath. I just love his writing style, and he really truly depicts what life was like back then in the Great Depression and people trying to make it. Number 4, and as we already discussed this, my favorite author is Anne Rice, of who I got to meet back in 2013 in her home city of New Orleans as she was doing a book signing of The Wolves of Midwinter. It has always been a dream of mine ever since I started reading her back in junior high to get to meet her, and I got that opportunity. I was on vacation. I always take vacation, as most people know, in October at the end of the month during Halloween week, which is my favorite week ever. I am like Cameron over at Book Movie Guy. I love the horror films. I like going to haunted houses, which don't really scare me at all anymore like they used to when I was little. And I just take that week off so I can enjoy that. And Anne Rice happened to be promoting that book, and her son Christopher Rice was promoting his book Heaven's Rise. And I also got to meet him and got two signed copies of both of those books and as well. And it was just a wonderful time. Meeting Anne Rice. Of course, I was nervous as heck, but I will definitely post the picture of me with Anne Rice at the end of this video. Number 3, with the thing of me meeting Anne Rice, I got to meet another one of my favorite authors, and he is a science fiction fantasy author. He completed the Wheel of Time series, and his name is Brandon Sanderson. I have all of his works except for one book signed, and hopefully he comes back to Ohio so I can try to meet him again. He was another thing. I was on vacation at the time. He was promoting Stormlight Book 2, Words of Radiance, and I was able to meet him because my plans fell through for where I was going to go to, and that was another difficult time in my life as well. And so I was able to jump on the opportunity and drive about 2 hours from where I live to Dayton, Ohio, and go and meet him, and I am so glad that I was able to. Number 2 may be a little bit personal for some, but my favorite place to read, and I have mentioned this before when I first started the channel a long time ago, is my favorite place is to read in my bathtub. I just like soaking in that hot tub water, and of course I'll have the Doors playing or a 90s band playing, and I will just go to town reading a book. And I spent at the most probably about 2 hours getting into a really good book, and one of those books was of course Brandon Sanderson's books, because he does write an awful lot, and I was just getting immersed into the character and into the world. And I did literally read about 150 pages before I actually got out of the tub. And when I do that, of course, on a night before, the next day I'm off, so I can spend that time and not worry about getting out of the bath quick. But that is my favorite place to read. I know that sounds crazy, but I just like reading in the bath. I think it relaxes me a lot. The number 1 bookish fact about me is, again, something that people who have stayed with me on this channel will know, that when John Green's book, The Fault in Our Stars, came out and I was reading that, during the time that I was reading that, a few things happened in my body and my system, and I had to get a series of tests and a biopsy done, and it proved that I was diagnosed with the same cancer that Hazel Grace started out as, which was thyroid cancer, before everything became terminal cancer before Hazel Grace. Thankfully, my thyroid cancer did not come terminal, but I had the surgery in 2012. Everything looked fine, so we thought. And in 2014, and this was the time that I met Anne Rice, or not Anne Rice, but Brandon Sanderson. And I had to go back and do another biopsy, which upon returning from my trip to meeting Brandon Sanderson, I got the call from my endocrinologist saying that I had to go back and take some more thyroid cancer out of my system. But I am now 2 years clean and free of the cancer, and hopefully within the 5-year mark I should be released from my doctor as far as any appointments, because I know if you're 5 years cancer free, then you not have to go to any more doctor's appointments. Usually they release you then. But I have had to do 6 months follow-up from January 2012 through this past year, where the last checkup everything was fine and I did not even need to do an ultrasound except every other time now, and they moved my appointments from every 6 months to every 9 months now. So hopefully next time I go back I will have every year appointments instead of 6 or 9 month appointments. So that is 25 Bookish facts about me. I thank you for watching this video, and I hope this wasn't too long of a video to sit through. And if you did like it, please comment, rate, subscribe, and I try to comment back on everybody's comments. Thanks again, and have a great weekend.